Thanks everyone for joining us tonight. We're here to go over our NEAR and co-op grant opportunities. Our NEAR grant is our Neighborhood Engagement Artist Residency, formerly known as our Artist in Residence grant. And our co-op grant, our Creative Opportunities Optimizing Promise grant, is for social justice organizations and artists to collaborate for teaching workshops. Let's take an overview of these two programs. The NEAR and co-op grants, the Neighborhood Engagement Artist Residency, the NEAR grant program was formerly our Artist in Residence program, and the Creative Opportunities grant, Optimizing Promise, supports collaborations between any nonprofit social justice organization and a creative teaching artist. On the right, you can see an example, a flyer from Asia Yu through No Easy Props, who did a teaching workshop on healing through hip hop dance. Some of the NEAR and co-op goals I'd like to outline are to support creative arts resources to neighborhoods and partner organizations in each council district. We wanted to provide direct and intimate access to contemporary teaching artists for the entire city. We'd also like to support projects that consistently engage no less than 20 participants on some topic of thematic learning, and a group that culminates in their workshops by staging a final presentation for the public to be viewed by no less than 40 individuals. Another goal is to sponsor the implementation of educational, participatory 6 or 12 session residencies by a spectrum of the city's most qualified teaching artists for the entire city. And we'd also like to have you know that providing host organizations offering little or no arts programming is one of the major goals of this program. It's to help them envision opportunities to test or develop new services with the integration of the artist to possibly branch its programs into its core services and create new collaborations with local arts organizations. So what is a social justice organization? Department of Cultural Affairs has a very broad definition of a social justice organization, with the caveat that a cause for equality must be in the mission statement. A few exceptions to this would be religious, political, and legal nonprofits, also nonprofits that are statewide, national, or international in scale. Not eligible at this time. Hopefully at a future date, once this program grows, we'll be able to be more inclusive. Social justice organizations at the moment should have a budget between $100,000 and $1 million to qualify as a partnership organization for this Artist in Residence program. Arts-based nonprofits should apply directly to DCA's cultural grant program category every August. And should not be the primary applicant for this co-op proposal, but organizations that are arts organizations in Los Angeles County may partner by lending an employee or artist with the expertise that could collaborate with a social justice organization to participate in workshops there. Moving on, let's go over some eligibility requirements. All applicants and co-op organizations must be headquartered in Los Angeles County. Applicants for the NEAR residency have to be individual artists. They can be collaborative duos or work as a team or an ensemble, but should be under the leadership of a single artist whose community-based practices are largely self-developed and remain primarily self-directed. Applicants for a co-op residency grant may be social justice organizations or nonprofit organizations opening or continuing a fresh partnership with a social justice organization. This can be in any council district in the city of Los Angeles. We have a special attention that we pay to South LA. We incentivize more programs to take place there. This would be in council districts 8 and 9, south of the 10 freeway and north of 228th Street. Again, you'll see another sample of a NEAR project. This is Undocu Stories by Christina Wong. This took place at the UCLA Labor Center, and this was also situated in a church basement. Some of the NEAR and co-op residency funds should be used for overall community projects held in publicly accessible facilities, ADA compliant. We do allow some limited access venues, such as a domestic violence shelter or a juvenile detention camp. We would just need to be in communication prior to the application submission. The residency fund should also be used for sustainable activities and projects that are going to emphasize creative thinking, skill building, and result in at least one free or low-cost public presentation, again, attended by 40 or more people. It's our hope that these workshops are continually attended by the same 20 participants for each workshop. You can see a couple more examples of NEAR artists here. On the left, we have Stephen Rain's My Life in Poetry, autobiographical poetry workshop led at the LGBTQ Senior Center in Los Angeles. And on the right, we have Christine Suarez Dance for Veterans, which she does over at the VA. We have a few more examples here to show you. New Directions for Youth, Judy Leventhal's Mask Making Adventures in Creativity. In the middle, we have Sierra Payton's Michael's Daughter's filmmaking workshop for girls at the Leadership Academy. And on the right, you see the Panorama City Branch Library presenting Deborah Disman's zine making workshops. Just to be mindful, letting you know up front, DCA cannot fund events closed to the general public. We could not fund a NEAR grant taking place at someone's house, for example. DCA cannot fund the purchase of depreciable assets. If you need to rent a video camera to film your culminating event, that's perfectly fine. However, you cannot buy the video camera to film your culminating event. DCA does not fund cash prizes, competitions, or awards, hospitality, food, travel, or accommodations. Please know DCA is for everyone. Everyone wins. We do not fund competitions. While these are skill building workshops, everyone's a winner. DCA does not fund projects at public schools that don't include at least 14 hours of workshops and one after school or evening assembly, which is open to the public. We all may think of public schools as being very accessible, while in fact, they are very difficult for you or I without a student at that school to go in and attend either a presentation or a workshop. Very important is the host partner. Your host organization is who you will be partnering with and dealing with throughout your residency. It's a site that needs to be ADA compliant and that must share goals with you and the project. It's great to have a partnership where you're both aligned and serving the same purposes. They should be able to commit to donating time and space. It would be lovely if they would commit to also marketing and also covering the insurance, which is required for all DCA projects. All DCA projects are required to maintain a $1 million general liability policy. In the past, we've had many host organizations absorb that cost and cover the teaching artists for the time duration of the workshops. Your host organization should provide a safe space that's accessible to people, and your host organization should also understand the best way to coordinate this program. They should be helpful in maintaining your workshop week after week. And moving on, let's talk next about Demographics and geographic distribution. Location matters, and so for Department of Cultural Affairs, while we seek to have artists in every council district, all 15 council districts, we do incentivize and prioritize certain council districts. And so this slide tells you a little bit about how the demographics and geographic distribution goes. We prioritize South Los Angeles, as I said previously, council districts 8 and 9. Your application funding is based on a panel score, and the council districts to be served factor into that. So this is very important when you make your application to include at least 2 council districts, your first choice, your second choice. The most competitive applicants will include all 3 council districts, so that if they score highest in their third council districts, that is where they will be awarded their contract. So please be mindful when selecting your host organization. The most underserved areas of Los Angeles get our attention and priority when it comes to geographic and demographic distribution. Now, application components. The proposal itself is cover page information and some meaty narrative questions. In addition, you're going to be asked for a series of attachments. This includes your host project letters, which is supporting your workshop and delineating how they will support that, their availability to you, how long you've had a relationship with them, etc. You're going to attach work samples, and that's going to include mostly media. Please keep them short. Ben can go over more of that in the application. Attachment C, you're going to attach your resume and any other artist resumes that may be presenting with you at the workshop, whether they're a guest artist or a co-artist. Please include all those resumes. Don't be shy on the resume. You're going to also attach a project budget, not scary at all. Ben will go over that. And you're going to attach supplementary materials. So while those are optional, highly recommended that you submit them. Most competitive applicants will submit the supplemental materials. Next, we're going to go over geography and demographics just one more time. What you see here is the big elephant ear of Los Angeles. What I have circled right now is South Los Angeles. You can see this is council districts 8 and 9. Down below by Long Beach is council district 15. Now we have San Fernando Valley, our other most underserved area, 3, 6, 7, and 12. Those areas are priority for DCA funding. So here you have interactive maps. You can capture these URLs. You can look at your council districts specifically, and even more specific and granular, you can look up the address in the neighborhoodinfo.lacity.org and check exactly which council district your address would be located. South LA, council districts 8 and 9, San Fernando Valley, council districts 3, 6, 7, and 12. Here we are. Right now, we're in workshop assistance on this grant cycle, and your grant application, online application, is due Monday, November 7th by 11:59 p.m. You're then going to mail a hard copy to us. Apologies for the extra work. We are a municipal funder and we're not separated from paper yet. Please mail that hard copy to us by Monday, November 14th. And then please know from there will be a lengthy period. We have to first audit their proposals for eligibility. We then convene the panels for scoring. We then we receive the city budget early spring, and that is how we know what awards we are able to grant by the budget that Department of Cultural Affairs has for the upcoming fiscal year. At that point, we make award notifications. At the same time, we contract you. And from there, your project will start July 1st, 2023 and run through June 30, 2024. Typically, these projects run no longer than 6 months. Some run 3 months. Some are over the summer intensives. So it really is up to you and your project that you explain in your application, your timeline. Next, you're going to go apply. Right after this, Ben's going to drill down into the application from this page, but this is where you'll find all further information about this grant. Each item on the salmon colored bar across there has drop down information that's very valuable, very explanatory, and also helps you optimize your application. I highly recommend that you read through most of this information given to you here before you go into your application. And with that, I'd like to say, if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to call on us. dca.grants@lacity is the fastest way to reach us. We're also available for phone calls if you'd like to further talk about your ideas for your project, or if you have a question about a host venue you thought was there but may not be there. Any questions at all, please feel free to reach out. All right, I'm going to give it over to Ben. Take it away.
I have a quick question. This is Coco with Dope Artists Matter. Hi there. So as far as partnering with community organizations, partnering with the organizations doesn't necessarily mean having the events at their location. Can it mean also having the events or the workshops at my location?
That's a great question, and actually a question that may apply to a lot of our social justice focused organization partnerships in particular, because to your point, it's not terribly unusual for a social justice organization having a physical location, but it's primarily office space, because oftentimes folks are out in the field working and serving their communities. What's important here is to think about the partnership with the organization. They should be providing to you as an artist enrolled participants. Who's going to be attending your workshops? They should have a connection to that social service organization. So the answer is to your question is yes. That's allowable to have another venue that is in and or about the same location where the community is based. We haven't come across a situation where an artist applicant is proposing a partnership with an organization based in Council District A, but the activities are taking place in a different council district. It gets tricky for us in that case. These are neighborhood-focused grants. So my answer to you is yes. If you're all staying within the same geographic area, you're serving the clients of the organization you're planning to work with, and your location is a publicly accessible space that is conducive to productive learning.
Okay. Yep. Great. Thank you so much.
Okay. Brenda, welcome back. I see the internet cooperated.
Thank you, Ben. I apologize, everyone. I don't know what happened. I'm sorry.
Okay, wonderful. I'm going to go ahead and go into the application portion. So please monitor the chat for questions and let me know when we can pause to respond.
Great.
Okay, before jumping into the application itself, always a great idea as savvy grant writers to understand what exactly you're going to be evaluated around. And this is a competitive process. And so it certainly behooves you to understand which criteria we're going to ask our peer panelists to rate you against. So this page should look familiar to you. This is our program guidelines page. You've already read all of this stuff, I'm sure. So I'm going to go to the section called panel review process, which may be familiar, which outlines what this process looks like, and importantly, highlights the key evaluation criteria we're looking for. We ask panelists to read your entire proposal and all its contents before they start assigning points around these criteria. We ask them to review your proposals holistically. So in any time you're entering a bit of data, if you're entering a narrative component, you're entering dollar figures or numbers in the budget, understand that that's an opportunity for you to be adjudicated across these 5 criteria. So first one is administrative capacity, capability. This is out of a 100-point scale. This is a quarter of your score, and you demonstrate strength in your administrative capability to execute a project by proposing a project that makes logical business sense. You've outlined a time frame and schedule that looks feasible and realistic. You accompany that with a budget that accounts for all anticipated or likely expenses. And also, it's the fit and finish of your proposal. It's your presentation to the panelists. Are you showcasing a proposal that is free of grammatical typos? It looks like you have your ducks in a row and logic in place. So that all contributes to your admin capacity, as well, of course, as your experience as demonstrated in your resume and artistic samples. Ideas and/or innovation constitutes another quarter of your score, and we are intentional about the and/or here. We're not necessarily looking for a brand new concept, avant-garde, project that we haven't seen before. That's cool if it's logical and makes sense and feasible. But we also love tried and true ideas that have worked well in the past, that just work well and are good and impactful. This is how you're going to show. This is how well your project is. How well is it? How likely is it to be successful? Basically, is it a good idea? Is this something where you're going to be able to impart great knowledge across a series of workshops for a targeted population? And is there going to be folks showing up at the end, culminating show? Impact and relevance speaks to how well your project will bring a participant from point A to point B. Will there be a significant change there? And is it something that is worthy of city investment? Are you expanding access to the arts to a community that has difficulty accessing it? What extent are you providing a valuable, good value for the city investment in terms of how many people you're reaching for the amount of money you're requesting? Quality and community partnerships constitutes another quarter of your score. This speaks to your quality in your experience in teaching your craft, what your teaching practice looks like over the past several years. Are there other collaborating artists that you're including in your project that will have an opportunity to serve the community as well? So this is where your resume, your artistic samples will really will really work to convince the panel that there's extreme quality here in the work that you're proposing. This also involves the quality and nature of your partnership with your host organization. Is there a great opportunity here for leveraging their resources? Is there some commitments of in-kind or even dollar amounts toward the project if it's funded through the city? Are there other partners that you're going to be involving in your project beyond your host venue? Are there ancillary organizations that will help promote your project, participate in your project, and so forth? And finally, there's a small 10-point assignment here by the DCA staff regarding geography and demographics. This goes back to that map I showed you a moment ago, where we prioritize projects taking place in the Northwest Valley and South LA. Everything else equal, the same residency taking place in West Hills, Woodland Hills, Panorama City, Northridge, Crenshaw, South LA is going to score more in geography and demographics than the very same project taking place in Hollywood. Okay, so now you have a sense of the things that we're going to be looking for, rather the panel is going to be looking for. Let's take a look at the application. So back on this page, you'll find the link to SurveyMonkey Apply, which is an online platform DCA uses for grants, right here. When you click on that link, it'll take you to the SurveyMonkey Apply website. So the very first thing you're going to do, if you're entirely brand new to this process, is to create an account, a SurveyMonkey Apply account. And you do that by clicking on that green button up on top, register. You can, if you are a near applicant, you're registering as an individual. If you are an organization applying for a co-op grant, you're going to register as an organization. Fill in this information, you'll have your login, and be ready to go. I have one already prepared here so we can look at it together. So I'm going to log in here, and then we'll see this page. This will be blank for you if you're coming here for the first time. So to find the grant program you can apply to, you click on the programs button up there on the top, and you'll see our near and co-op solicitation here. Click on the more button. And if you haven't started an application yet, you'll have a green button here to start one. Since I have one in process, I don't have that option. You're only allowed one proposal in this grant program. So let's go see my application for our illustrative purposes. This is the task list for this grant program. It's your think of this as a checklist of the things you have to do and are expected to complete before you are able to submit. You won't be able to submit anything until you've completed all of the required tasks. SurveyMonkey Apply shows you and helps you kind of organize what you need to do by using these little icons. Anything with a green check mark means it's something that you've already completed. Something with this half moon looking shape shows it's something you've started but haven't quite completed. And anything with this grayed out circle shows something that hasn't been done or started yet. So let's jump right in. The very first thing on the top of the list is your near and co-op proposal. Let's click on this. This is the proposal. It consists of 3 pages. The first page we call a cover page, basic information about yourself. Second page has basic information about your proposed project and where it's going to take place. And the third page is that meaty page of 3 narrative responses. If you're coming back, submitting this application again, you'll find that we worked hard to streamline this process this year. We combined prior questions that were kind of interrelated, and so we reduced the number of narrative questions, although they are meatier, and we also reduced the number of attachments. So we hope that comes as good news. First page of the proposal, we're going to give us basic information about yourself. First off, you're going to give us an idea if you're a near or co-op applicant. To reiterate, if you are a near applicant, that means you're an individual freelance teaching artist residing somewhere within Los Angeles County, proposing to work with a partner. If you're a co-op applicant, you are an organization, specifically a nonprofit social justice organization, or a nonprofit arts organization who's proposing to assign one of your currently employed teaching artists to work at a social justice organization. In both instances, make sure as a co-op applicant, you have an operating budget ranging between $100,000 to $1 million. All right, most of our applications that we've seen are near proposals. So we're going to continue with this illustration as a near proposal. Provide your legal name, professional name, mailing address, and give us an indication of which council district you reside. So if you live in the city of LA, you will be in one of 15 council districts, or if you're outside the city of LA, for example, you're Beverly Hills, Culver City, Santa Monica, or unincorporated parts of LA County like East LA or Altadena, you're eligible. So you can just simply mark that box elsewhere in LA County. In this example, I used DCA's headquarters in downtown LA, which is Council District 14. If you don't know where your council district is, we don't necessarily expect you to know that right off the bat. We have a link here for you to click on. And this is one of those links I mentioned earlier when I talked about the map, but just type in an address and it'll give you a lot of information about that address. 1 North Figueroa. This is where BCA is based. And the thing that we're looking for here is City Council, and you can see we're in District 14. If you're typing in an address that's not in the city of LA, you're going to get a no results found message. So it's a good check. Phone number and email and web address. So easy first page, no problem. Moving on to the second page, we're looking for basic information about your project now. Give your project a title. In this example, it's something kind of bland, storytelling with youth in the SFV, San Fernando Valley. I invite you to come up with something more snappy than that, but something as simple and clear as that also works great. Give us the name of the proposed lead teaching artist. In this case, it's going to be me as the lead teaching artist. Give us a project start and end date. And it has to be somewhere between July 1, 23, going all the way to June 30, 2024. Very rarely do we see projects spanning the entire 12-month period. In fact, we discourage that. Try to package your project so that it starts and is completed between 3 to 6 months. That way you get it done, we get you paid, and everyone's happy. In this example, I'm forecasting a fall-winter residency that begins sometime in September and concludes in December 17th. And so and that December 17th is the date I plan to have a culminating show. Give us an estimate of the number of artists you're going to be paying through this project. Certainly count yourself. This number should be at least 1. We expect you to pay yourself if awarded a grant, but also think about any graphic designers you're going to be working with to make your marketing materials, any collaborating guest artists you're going to bring in as, to showcase other artists that's consistent with your curriculum. And then any other creative workers that you see being involved and are paying to make your project happen. So I have an estimate here of 5. As Brenda mentioned earlier, we have minimum attendance and participation expectations. We expect funded projects to enroll consistently around 20 or so people who will attend each of your workshops. We encourage you to oversubscribe, over-enroll, understanding that there is always folks who will not show up for whatever reason. A general rule of thumb, we encourage folks to have an enrollment of close to double. So 40 is a good number, understanding that maybe 50, 60, 70% of those folks will show up. For your culminating show, we want you to broadcast and market the culminating show to show off what learning took place to the local neighborhood and community. We expect to see at least 50 or more folks from the community come and attend. I'm proposing a project here with a 150 planned audience. Okay, so this is where you start thinking about your project's locations. First choice, second choice, and third choice. First choice is absolutely required. Second choice is strongly recommended, just so you have that backup option. Third choice is very strongly recommended also. So in this instance, I'm focusing on, in my first choice, I have this relationship with Panorama City. I'm working with youth there at the Panorama City Family Center. I'm entering their address. They're based in Council District 6, which is bonus, happens to be one of the priority areas for the city. And please indicate to us how long you've been working and partnering with that organization. We've given you 4 options here. This is a brand new site for you. Please select you haven't presented there before. If you worked there once, but not quite like a full year, you would say, mark the less than 1 year. Maybe you've worked with them 1 to 3 years, mark that. Or maybe you have a long-standing relationship, partnership with this organization. You can click that last option of more than 3 years. It helps the panelists understand how ironclad and locked in this proposed partnership is. It boosts confidence when panelists see artists proposing relationships with organizations they already have working relationships with.
But Ben, if I could just add, don't worry if you haven't had a long relationship with the venue. The letter of support is also another way to substantiate that relationship.
Absolutely. Brand new partnerships are certainly welcome. And we've seen many partnerships that started brand new thanks to this grant program that have continued for more than 1, 2, 3 years. This next question regarding your first choice is in regards to general liability insurance. As a condition of receiving any grant service contract from the City of Los Angeles, as a grantee, you would be expected to demonstrate a liability coverage for $1 million. What we find in many of the really successful partnerships to this grant program is that the hosting organization is actually able to add the resident artist as an additional insured, saving that expense. So we encourage you, as you explore partnerships, to bring that up in terms of what the organization is able to provide and contribute towards a project if it's funded. Insurance is a good one, and so this is an indication. This question is here to remind you that that's going to be required if you're awarded a grant, and to encourage you to bring it up in your early conversations. Now your second choice options. So in this example, I'm sticking in the Valley. I have this. I spoke to this awesome librarian out there in Woodland Hills at the Platt Branch Library. They're excited about me bringing in some creative storytelling workshops to serve the youth over there in their community in Woodland Hills. Happens to be in the Valley, Council District 3, another priority area. That's a bonus point for me and really increases my chances for success. And this is a brand new proposed partnership. A friend of mine connected me to this librarian, and they were excited about the idea. I left my third choice options blank. Hopefully, you will be able to fill in yours. It's not required, but we certainly encourage it. All right. So with that information out of the way, we go into the narrative. So 3 meaty questions here. First one, we are looking for you telling us what this project is all about. Give us the project specs. And think of using very technical, almost dry language to explain this to us. It can be, rather than being particularly marketing or flashy, keep it really factual. I'm proposing a 15-week storytelling workshop working with youth at a family center base in Panorama City. Each of these workshops will scaffold over one each other, and the students will learn A, B, C, D, E. And by the end, they'll be able to create blah, 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 blah. And we'll have an opportunity to showcase it in a reading of student work at a culminating event taking place at the family center on such and such date. Something like that, very kind of dry and technical in nature. You want to leave the panelists with a very clear understanding of what your project is going to be composed of. And to that point, give a quick outline and rough timeline of what your workshop series will look like. In this example, I suggested a 15-week, workshop series. You can use bullet lists. Very brief bullet points, weeks 1 through 3, basic, introduction, 4, 5, 6, more advanced writing techniques, yada, 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 culminating with the 16th week with a culminating show. Be very detailed here, 1,200 word maximum here. We want you to be detailed and clear about what your project's going to consist of. And then share with the panel why you're qualified to carry out that project you just finished describing. Is there a particular skill set that you have? How has your training prepared you in your education background, your performance practice, and your teaching practice? How many years of experience? What kind of what kind of similar populations have you served in the past that makes you best suited to carry out the project you described? Let the panelists know that if this project is carried out, it's being carried out by someone who's really fit to do so. Second question, it gives you an opportunity to tell us about the specific community to be served and your partnership with the host venue. So tell us what's special about this group, why your skills and your teaching practice would be especially valuable if you had the opportunity to work with this group. Is this programming not ever offered anywhere, in this area? Are these youth, family, adults generally not exposed to the arts and are demanding it and are very interested in it? Give us a sense for what's special about this population and how that fits with your experience and background training. And similarly, why are you connected with this particular host organization? Are they the ones that would really maximize access and ensure successful access for reaching this population? Talk about what kind of collaboration will take place and how this organization will help ensure that you'll have your 20 or more people show up. Are they assigning a special coordinator to work with you? Are they going to help you with calling families for those kids who missed the last week's workshop, making sure they show up in this next one? Are they going to help produce all your flyers and marketing materials in other languages to maximize the opportunity for reaching all possible and interested parties? Tell us about what that partnership looks like. And then the last question gives you a chance to tell us about your planning about making sure that your project is successful before, during, and after. So the most successful projects we see have applicants telling us about how they're going to, number one, telling us how they know their project is successful. What kind of outcomes are they going to look for? What kind of tools and strategies would they use before, during, and after to ensure maximum success? Is there some sort of survey involved before the residency takes place? Is there some sort of survey at the end? Is there an opportunity for some sort of course correction in the middle if some results are not what you are anticipating? Tell us about your plan for ensuring your project is going to be successful. And that's it. So 3 big questions. What's your project consisting of? An outline of what kind of learning is going to take place. Tell us about the people you're going to serve and the collaborating partner. And then finally, impact and evaluation. How are you making sure your project is successful? A couple of pitfalls we see in this section. A lot of details often provided in the project specs around the learning that will take place, with not enough discussion of that public culminating show. We For us as a public funder, we like to reach, we support projects that ultimately serve the greater, a greater community rather than a small group of 20 or so participants. So that culminating show is very important. So make sure you build that into your narrative. Don't forget about the public culminating show, whether it's an exhibition, a showcase, a concert, some kind of show where it's not just the 20 or so people who are participating, but something that the general neighborhood and community can enjoy and experience.
Yes, and I'd just like to add on to that the NEAR or co-op organization will be in touch with DCA with what we call an event notification, and that's part of which is the flyers that you all saw. And that is where DCA also has the opportunity to market this event to the general public.
Absolutely, yeah. DCA maintains a grantee calendar on the DCA website, and we love every opportunity to brag about our grantees' public showcases and presentations, so we can make sure you have butts in the seat and you have maximum enrollment and capacity at those culminating shows. All right, so there's a certification statement here where you're promising us what you're providing here is the best of your knowledge, accurate, and so forth. Read that and then sign it. And you can sign that by using your mouse pad in your laptop here and marking that complete. So that's the heavy lifting of the proposal. That's the first item. And once you're done with that, you go back to your application. You should see a very satisfying green check mark there, meaning it's done. The other items, hopefully you will have already had this stuff prepared and saved somewhere on your computer. Your project host letter, we expect to see a host letter for each of your first and second and third choice locations. We ask for a letter that's no more than 2 pages long. A lot of this can fit in a single letter where the partnering venue tells us a series of information, their mission, what kind of arts programming, if any, is at the organization already, what kind of support and will they plan to provide to you if you were to be funded. And that includes any kind of matching from either financial or in kind, and any kind of, and generally a statement of support that, if you're funded, they're ready to work with you right away and get this project going. If you get to the end of, you're approaching the application deadline, remember this can be as simple as if it's not a beautiful letter on the organization's letterhead, you can submit also an email just to show the panelists you've had a conversation with these folks and they're excited to have you and are willing to support you. Okay, I'm going to attach a file here. I'm just going to attach some placeholder file here, a host letter, so I can mark that complete. All right, back to my application checklist. I'm going now into attachment B, our artistic work samples. Very good and important section. You have the option to provide your artistic work samples in a couple ways. You can give us links to videos, to a website, to some sort of other online source, or you can give us up to 10 static images. Generally speaking, videos and anything multimedia in nature is encouraged. Imagine our poor peer panelists who are reading lots and lots of grant proposals, lots of words on the page. This is your opportunity to get them to look up from the page and enjoy some art. So where possible, think about adding video clips, multimedia presentations, and so forth. So in this case, I'm going to add links. I'll add 2. And what we like to recommend is you provide the link first and add any kind of contextual notes here about what the panelists can expect to see after clicking on the link. Where possible, try to avoid password protected links just to maximize the user experience for the panelists so they can simply click on something and enjoy it. Try to keep these pretty short. Avoid linking to like a 90-minute presentation. Either truncate it before uploading so that it's all within, we like to say, less than 5 minutes in total. If not, you can also use this text box as an opportunity to indicate a start time and end time that we're going to ask panelists to observe. In terms of what's a good work sample for this grant program, remember, one of the things you want to be able to showcase there is your teaching practice. So we've seen really strong artistic samples in the past where an artist is able to provide a video clip of them actually facilitating a workshop session. It showcases to the panelists an ability of the artist for receiving and fielding, responding to questions, following a curriculum, and showing a level of engagement from the participants in the workshop. But we're also interested in kind of the culminating show. So if there's so I recommend, you know, mixing up your artistic sample so you can see both elements, something that showcases your teaching practice and also what the end product looks like. And the end product, nothing beats a video of what it's that shows what it's like to be at the event itself. Panelists like to see, of course, what's happening on the stage, but they also like to be able to have a sense of how well attended is that final show. Our families and adults, are the attendees looking like they're having fun? Are they engaged? All of that is very useful information, and constitutes really compelling artistic samples. Okay, I'm going to add that second link here just so we can move forward. And we'll mark this complete. Great. So let's go back to the application. Aren't these great seeing all these green check marks? Attachment C, teaching artist resume, is an easy one. There's no page limit on your resume. So this is a great opportunity for you to be as detailed as possible to really showcase how experienced and trained you are to carry out the activities you're proposing. Attach a file. And if there are collaborating artists that you plan to bring in, you'll have an opportunity to add additional resumes also. So imagine if you have 2 guest artists coming in, really wonderful idea to upload resumes for them as well, so that the panelists can see the level of quality and experience that those guest artists would bring. Mark that complete. Okay, moving along, we get to the project budget. Oftentimes something that scares a lot of our artist applicants. But please, we try to make this as easy as possible. We provide for you a sample budget. So if you don't even know where to start, take a look at the sample budget. It outlines a lot of the typical expenses that we see successful projects involve. The top section is one of the most important parts. It's artist fees. It's how much you're paying yourself. Okay, and we certainly expect you to pay yourself as part of this grant. The giant portion of this grant should be about paying you as an artist. So in this example, we divvy it up into your planning time, and to your time actually facilitating, carrying out your workshops and the project sessions, and any time you're going to contribute towards promoting and evaluating your work. In this example, you can see that the cultural affairs request constitutes most of that expense, but we also have some donated time. Time that you're going to be doing on your own that you're not necessarily account for your grant request. Not uncommon. Guest artist fees is where you can outline any guest artists, and you give panelists a sense of how you're calculating this. In this case, 4 artists, $400 a person for them showing up, giving them an honorarium, $600. Project materials, supplies and materials, $800. How that sounds reasonable. You can see in this example, our host venue is donating $9,200 worth of rental equipment to carry out this project. Imagine, you know, you're doing a percussion or drum workshop working with kids where everyone's learning how to, you know, learn a musical instrument, and it culminates in some really awesome like block party where there's a temporary stage set up and so forth. That can be very expensive and offers awesome production value, but often falls outside of the scale of this grant size. So if there's an opportunity here for your host organization to contribute a matching contribution towards making that happen, this is a great place to showcase that. Marketing and flyers, common expense, although we are more and more going towards digital advertising, so not uncommon for that instead to also include, you know, Facebook, Instagram fees for broadcasting and marketing. That's totally allowable. Any evaluation expenses and contingencies. We always encourage applicants to think about some of those expenses that you're not thinking of now, but will come later. We recommend a 7% contingency. I'll flag as well, if awarded a near grant, the grant will come to you and be reported back to the IRS as 1099 miscellaneous income. So you might want to plan for, making sure that you're accounting for possible tax liability at the end of the at the end of the project. The last thing I'll note in the budget is that there's a narrative space here where you can add words to contextualize the numbers that lie above. You can say like $9,200 includes, such a stage, sound equipment, a DJ, etc., to be provided by the venue. Additional like in-kind contribution notes, what kind of supplies and materials are being donated, and so forth.
Yeah, budget notes for each line item.
Right. A reminder that for near applicants, this first column, cultural affairs requests, should amount to exactly $12,000. We want you asking the max, and our goal is to fund all of those at $12,000. If you're a co-op applicant, you're an organization applicant, we want you to add in an extra $3,000 in your expenses for your admin and overhead support. So your total DCA request should be $15,000. Any questions about the budget?
No questions, Ben.
Great. Okay. So this is obviously a sample, and we'll know it's a sample because we're going to see this watermark. Please do not submit the sample budget. We've seen that before. It doesn't score you many good admin capacity points if you just upload the sample budget. So make sure to fill out one of your own, but do take inspiration from the sample. We certainly welcome that. And you can download a blank version by clicking on this first link. And when you download it and save it to your computer, it's a PDF file. So use the free Adobe Acrobat Reader, or if you're on a Mac, you can use Preview. That way you can fill in the pre-filled spaces successfully. All right, we're going to mark this complete. All right, and for most applicants, that's it. Those are the required components. Those 6 items are the required components. I'm sorry, I forgot attachment E, supplementary materials. I cheated by marking it as a green check mark before we started. Supplementary materials are super important also. We ask for up to 3 of these. The first one, please make sure you're uploading some sort of lesson plan or curriculum. As you've heard in this past hour, this program emphasizes skill building, sequential learning. But one of the best ways you can showcase to the panel that you've thought about what that looks like and that you're qualified to carry this out is to provide a detailed lesson plan or curriculum. So whereas in your narrative proposal, you only gave us bullet points of what weeks 1, 2, and 3 will cover, what 3 and 4 will cover. In this section, upload a much more detailed document. Okay, that really shows what kind of learning is to take place over the course of 12 or more weeks. Pardon me. So make your lesson plan item number 1. Items number 2 and 3 is an opportunity for you to include outside voices to corroborate how wonderful you are, how impactful your project has been in the past. So a letter of support from a past workshop participant, a letter of support from a past audience member at the culminating show, a letter of support from past participating host organizations who've seen your project and residency in action. These are all things that can really convince a panelist that your project is going to be successful. And to that end, like critical reviews, blog posts, or any kind of outside writing about your work is something that you can consider uploading in this section. Plan for all 3 of these items to take no more than 6 pages in total. That's a good thing to aim for. Again, this supplementary materials section is an optional section, but I don't think we've seen any funded projects who opted not to fill it out. So make sure you take advantage of attachment E, and where possible, fill in the blank for each of those 3 slots. Upload 3 strong supplementary materials. Okay, attachments A, B, C, D, and E constitutes the bare minimum. One bonus attachment if you're an organization applicant, we ask for an IRS 990 from your most recently completed year, just so we can substantiate that you're a nonprofit organization and you have an operating budget ranging between $100K and $1 million. The last 2 items are optional. We ask for your anticipated service metrics in terms of number of people, demographic breakdown that you plan to reach. It is all internal. The panelists don't see this. For us, we like to collect this information, and it helps us better understand what the arts economy looks like here in our city. So if you have the opportunity and time to fill this out, we welcome you to do that. The last item is a feedback survey. In the spirit of impact and evaluation, here at the DCA, we ask and try to impart similar strategies when we carry out these grant programs. We invite for feedback, both positive and negative, about what the experience was like filling this out. This year's rollout of a much more streamlined narrative section, fewer attachments, all about response to folks saying, looking for an easier proposal. So there's still work to be done, to be sure, but we continue to work hard at that, and your feedback is essential in making it and helping us do that, smartly. All right, so with all those minimum check marks filled out, you can see that this, what was once a gray box, has now become green. I can go ahead and submit that. But I'm not going to submit right away because I'm a savvy grant writer. I will take every opportunity I can to read and reread, triple read everything I've prepared, to check for typos, grammatical errors, making sure responses I might have prepared on the Microsoft Word file that I copy pasted into this didn't get accidentally truncated because it got chopped off by the word count limit. That's a common pitfall. Please avoid that. Read through everything and double check before you click submit. But once you do submit, you'll get a nice confirmation via email from SurveyMonkey Apply, and you'll be able to see that in your site as well. And in that automatically generated email, you'll see instructions for how to print out to us the text components of your proposal so that you can mail it to us before the postmark deadline of the 14th of November. Okay, that concludes the portion on the application. We'll pause here for questions. Wow, okay.
I would just like to point out just a fact for the proposals that are funded. These funds are what we call reimbursable funds. And so when you are contracted and receive your contract number, you are able to invoice for up to half of the grant award, and that's for expenses anticipated or already incurred for your project. And the balance of your award is after a final report and the project is complete.
Yeah,
just
thank
a little.
You for that. Thank you for that good note, Brenda. We are a municipal funding agency, and unfortunately, if once we give you the good news that you're funded, we can't show up at your door with a fat check, publishing clearinghouse style, as much as we'd love to do that. DCA city contracts are generally reimbursement based, services fulfilled, and then finally paid. We were able to negotiate an upfront payment based on anticipated or incurred expenses, so that that's at the moment the most we can do, but it does take time. And so building in this idea that these are reimbursement grants is helpful in understanding your and maintaining your expectations for when you will actually see cash in hand.
Ben, we have a question from Richard asking, could we potentially use this information to apply next year? And may we email you ideas for courses to make sure they'd be a good fit for DCA?
Thanks for the question, Richard. As cumbersome and clunky municipal funding opportunities can be, the good news is they're highly cyclical in nature and often offered every year, and with minimal change. So the answer to your first part of the question is absolutely yes. We hope to offer this program on an annual basis with minimal changes from year to year. We'd like to say the program guidelines stay about 95% the same. So, and in fact, on our program guidelines now, you can actually see a link to this video from last year. And if you were to spend the time to actually compare the videos, it'll be very, very similar. The second part of your question is, are you able to email us for courses and good fit? We always welcome conversations. I would actually invite you to set up a call with us where you can pitch to us the project concept. We won't go the extra mile of actually reading through a proposed outline, course curriculum and so forth, out of fairness to all applicants. But with us having seen the nature of successful projects in the past, we're happy to hear your idea and share our experience and knowledge about how that might be viewed by a peer panel.
Thank you.
I have a question regarding the funding that we're going on, Brenda, and Ben. So if other artists are involved project or as payment for the services that they're providing during the course of the workshops or taking place. Are you saying that 50% of the funding would be of the time that the workshops are taking place, and then the remainder would be paid via the grant after the workshops have completed?
If I think I understand your question correctly, yes. Once you have a fully executed city contract with a contract number, and in all optimism, you've been awarded $12,000, you can then send us an invoice for $6,000 right away without the workshops having even started. How you pay the artists involved in the project is up to you, and that you would pay directly, not the city. The city would be contracted with you or your organization. And after that $6,000 has been paid, the remainder $6,000 will be paid upon another invoice after the project is completed. It's called a final invoice and narrative report. And that is what will close out the contract, is that final payment. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Completely. Thank you so much.
You bet.
I see you also have a question from Mona Lisa. And to the point of cumbersome municipal grant opportunities, we have, because of city rules and expectations for record keeping in our office, we haven't fully divorced paper in our grant application processes. We've tried to minimize as much as we can. So we do ask for that hard copy proposal portion of your proposal to be mailed to us. Okay, last call for questions. We are a little bit ahead of schedule, so I'm happy to stick around for a bit. Otherwise, if no questions come to mind at the moment, Brenda and I are always available to you at DCA. Easiest way to reach us is our shared email at dca.grants@lacity.org. We're experiencing weird phone stuff at the moment where our general line number is temporarily out of service. But you can certainly email us to set up a phone call, set up a phone consultation, and you can also reach us directly by email by viewing the staff listing on the DCA website.